Get ready, the waves are 67. Get ready, it's barreling down the line. You better ready, my heart to rubber-dubbing. Yeah, yeah. Get ready, you know we're feeling fine. It's Breakfast with Bob.
Poncho Man. Welcome to Breakfast with Bob. My name is Bob Babbitt. We are brought to you by EAS Sports Nutrition, Hoka One One, Polar, Osca Wellness, VeloFix, Four Seasons Hualalai, and we're airing on triathlonworld.com. My next guest, the 2016 Ironman 70.3 world champion, Mr. Tim Reed. That's a nice ring to it.
Yeah, I'm getting used to the sound of that. It's it's a nice title.
So talk about that race. I mean, it became a legendary race, you and Sebi going back and forth during that run.
Yeah, I think like most events, the real battle that people saw was on the run, but of course it's, the battle starts.
You got to get there. Yeah.
The battle starts in the swim, and the bike was pretty tough as well, and then it was it was sort of Sebi and I actually working together on the run to try and get a gap on everyone else, because it was quite a windy run, and we were sheltering each other. And then once we had established that we were the main competitors left, then it turned into a bit of a war.
So was there a point where you guys were like, okay, every bit man for himself? You sort of worked together for 8-9 miles or something?
So we worked together, about 6 miles, and then there was Sebi obviously just decided that was enough, and I would have kept working together, but no, he just put in some pretty aggressive surges, and I was like, all right, the game's over now. It's,
we're not teammates anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I just gradually kept responding slowly to his big surges, and eventually I think all his little attacks actually ended up hurting him in that final sprint, and I was able to just get ahead at the end.
And what'd you win by? It's just a couple seconds.
Yeah, it was 2 seconds in the end.
Have you had a race like that over that distance?
Yeah,
that was that close?
I had a 2-second win over Tim Burkle in the Philippines.
Yes.
Very similar sort of battle, but obviously not the same prestige attached to the win. So,
right.
Yeah.
How important was that, being in your home country with that race in terms of the crowd?
Yeah, I don't think you can underestimate how much advantage it gives you. There were moments there where I was, 15, 20 metres behind Sebi, and the amount of support I got and the amount of encouragement to get back on his shoulder, I think it gives you an extra 5% in your performance. And I was down and out a few times there, and I really feel like the crowd kept me in it.
I remember we were chatting last year, and you basically said a year ago, my goal is, 70.3 worlds, because basically it's in my home area.
Yeah, I think it's anyone who's got the World Championships in their own country, you've got to go. It's an advantage for one thing, but also you might not get that opportunity again in your career unless you're American, and then it's here every second year.
So your first Ironman was, you had to come from behind and win there. Was it Clayton Fattel?
Yeah, I won my first Ironman at Ironman Australia this year.
Yeah.
And, it was essentially just sticking to the plan, which I've never been good at doing, and not worrying about the fact that, someone had a bit of a lead on me, because I just stuck to my plan and realised I actually wasn't really that concerned about the win so much as just getting one right.
Right.
And I got it right. I mean, I got a course record on a race that's been around a long time. So. And
you were 8 minutes down off the bike?
Yeah, 8 minutes down. But I also knew when he was riding past, when we do out and backs, I could see he was hurting. So he was paying for that 8 minutes, whereas I felt like I just kept the whole day fairly comfortable. Obviously, the last 10 kilometres, the last 45 minutes of the race is never comfortable.
No.
And everyone's hurting, but. I was ready for that, and at least it wasn't the first 45 minutes of the run.
Well, and you ran 2:51 off the bike for your first one is not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's typically not a course where people run much under 3 hours, to be honest. So I was wrapped with that. It's not the depth of some of the bigger Ironmans that are around the world, but for me, it's about progression and getting things right. I didn't walk into 70.3s and start dominating straight away. It was a 5 or 6 year process.
Yes.
So that's the plan with Ironman, just steadily improve each year.
So you win that race, and now you're here. And what are your thoughts for this weekend? What are your plans?
Yeah,
It's been such a great season so
it
far.
has been. I feel like the pressure's off in a lot of ways. I'm racing for the right reasons. I'm racing because I want to do well, not because I'm worried about sponsorship contracts next year. There's none of that sort of pressure. It's just go out there and stick to a similar plan as Port Macquarie. But at the same time, it's also so tempting in a race like this, to not stick to the plan. So I wouldn't rule out perhaps throwing everything to the wind, just having a real red hot crack. But at least I've told my coach that I'm going to stick to the plan. That's where I'm at the moment.
So if you see an opportunity to go for it on the bike, you might.
If I feel great and we're halfway through the ride and I'm thinking this is an opportunity to actually push for something more, then yeah, I'll go for it. But
the other thing when I look at when I look at how much racing you do, like in 2014, 7 70.3s, and 2015, 8. And people are doing, these are half marathons. At the end of the day, you're running a half marathon. Is there a point where you sort of have to back off a little bit and not race as much?
Yeah, I think I've made that mistake quite a few times. Started in January, and then by the time I get to September, it definitely happened last year.
Yeah.
I was completely cooked. And so this year I still started racing in January, but a lot less fit, and
Right.
then actually took a full month off in May. So I feel like that's worked quite well for me. And instead of just trying to push all the way through, I'm still quite motivated.
Right.
The body's relatively good for this time of year. So it's a lot of racing. And I know a lot of the old school guys are like, oh, it's too much racing, but I feel like we don't train as hard as they did as well. So
That's interesting.
I use the racing to get fit.
So some of these, you change in terms of your expectations for some of these races. This is like a training day for you. Not this one, but
Not this one,
No,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But some races are almost like a training session.
Yeah, absolutely. I struggle to go out and do a lot of 4 hours at race pace. So if I can include a race, get paid, have fun, that's a great training
That's
day.
a really good point.
Yeah.
So you've raced this once before,
Yes,
correct? You were 21st.
twice. Did as an age grouper.
Okay, but as a pro, 21st in 2014?
Correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and then last year you didn't race here. What did you learn from that first time here that'll take into this one?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot racing, and I learned as much not racing the year
Yeah.
after. But the first time I learned that how much I have to stay on top of my hydration. That was something I went away from that race and like, where am I going wrong in these Ironman events? Because it wasn't just that one. I did Texas and fell apart there, and basically worked out my sweat rate and how much I need to be getting in, and also where my limits are in hot races. In cold races, I can pretty much just
You can do whatever you want.
I can be aggressive. I can
Yeah.
take risks, and in hot races with my sweat rate, I can't do that.
So you sweat more than other guys.
Than a lot of guys, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of guys that have won this race with a high sweat rate too. I mean, look at Macca. So I'm not totally despondent about that. It's just something I have to accept and race accordingly.
So when you look back at the transitioning from 70.3 to this, how difficult has that been?
I feel like 70.3s is a different sort of pain. I just go out and race it like I would an Olympic distance race in
Yeah.
many regards.
Yes.
You just basically sit. You don't have to think too much. You just race hard. You don't have to nail the hydration and fueling quite the same way. Whereas I feel like with an Ironman, you almost have to feel like the first half of the race that you're going relatively easy, and you let the distance be the punishment, not the intensity.
Oh, interesting.
That's sort of the conclusion I've come to from my limited experience at the distance. But it's all, the pure distance of the race will wear you down. You don't have to help it by going too hard.
That's a great line. I love that. Now, we haven't had a Speedo aficionado win this race since, I think, Faris El Sultan in 2005, right? Who definitely was a good man at sporting a Speedo.
Yeah.
Will you be sporting the Speedo on Saturday?
I'll definitely be running in the Budgie Smuggler. I'll probably wear a suit for the bike. Purely
Yes.
because I'm
Comforts.
coming out of Australian winter and my legs aren't as tanned as they need to be. I don't want to get too sunburned out there. So, but I've always said I feel like it's a lot cooler and a lot more comfortable to run in Budgie Smugglers. So that's the plan.
What would it mean to you to win this race?
Yeah, well, I think realistically I'll try and target a win when I'm 33, 34. So that's a couple of years away. But I mean, you've reached the pinnacle once you win this race.
Right.
It's the ultimate goal for most people. It's either the Olympics or winning Hawaii.
So coming into this Saturday, if you were podium, if you were top 5, you'd be a happy guy.
I'd be happy, honestly, with the top 10. I feel like that would be just a good progression for me,
Yeah.
and then can build from that in the coming years.
I think you're underestimating yourself, my man. I mean, you start running a 251 off the bike in Australia and then winning a sprint race with 2014 Ironman world champion Sebastian Kienle. You could be doing a little better than that this Saturday.
Yeah, I don't want to get too excited. I'm just trying to, if I just want to race and not really think about the result. And
Yes.
if I know I can get to the finish and feel like I've at least raced somewhat to my potential,
Yes.
then I can go away satisfied. But if I finish 5th and feel like I mucked it up, then I'll be angry. So, it's more about feeling like I did what I could with what I had on the day.
Love it.
Yeah.
Tim, thanks so much, man. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thanks, Bob.
Tim Reed, Ironman 70.3 world champion, Mr. Poncho Man. Take us out.
Big island surfing, whoa, whoa, whoa. Big island surfing. Breakfast with Bob and brother Tim. Oh!
You.